You know, it's been a while since I looked at some of my funniest comments, I guess to say, but how about focusing more on some things people believe that have never even watched the channel before? Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back to talk a little pressing issues, and that is a thing that kind of been going around for the 5 years I've been doing this channel is, say, for example, I'll go on someone else's channel, or I don't go to Reddit, but someone that is a viewer of the channel will take a screenshot of something from Reddit and send it to me, and I'll be like, really? People believe that. And I thought, hey, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I know whenever you have a lot of these videos, that guy, might reach a new audience sometimes, and they'll be the first time they see the channel, and they'll say, hey, I believe these things about this channel, and it turns out they're not true. And that's kind of what I want to talk about, guys. Sometimes those popular videos do get some wild comments, so I want to make sure that I address some of the myths and accusations in here. Now, look, I can take criticism, and I'm going to tell you, some of them, they might be half true, but some of them are just straight up malarkey. We're going to kind of talk about those today. Now, again, this is nothing that I feel like is me just saying, hey, I'm a little victim here, because look, I am guilty of some things, as some people are, but some of them are just absurd, and some of them are just very tiny little things. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you might hear me kind of address these several times. And if you're kind of a casual viewer, you watch once in a great while, hey, maybe this is time to put to bed some of those things you've heard and thought were true. Let's start off with some of the simple ones here. You hated the Lies of Lck Lamore. I think people get very, very confused with this, because I picked up the camera one day. I had a few minutes before my kid's bus was getting home, and I said, what can I just do real fast without any research or thought whatsoever? And I just said a thing about why, I have an unpopular opinion on Name of the Wind. I don't think that Name of the Wind is as great of a book as everyone else does. And I kind of just, if I've ever done a rant video on the channel, that was it. But again, I think that Lies of Lck Lamore has kind of got wrapped into that, because I didn't dislike Lies of Lck Lamore. Again, I just say it didn't quite blow my skirt up like it did everyone else who seemed to read it, who hails it as like a top 10 book all time. That's really what it was. So it's kind of fell into that whole deal of, oh, well, he hated Lies of Lck Lamore. That's why he hasn't read the sequels. But I haven't read the sequels because it's another series where the author hasn't finished it. Long time Song of Ice and Fire sufferer. So I don't want to get involved in that. I can just kind of just say, hey, I'll treat it kind of as a standalone and go from there, since the books 2 and 3 seem to be pretty divisive on it. In recent history, a lot of people told me, hey, since book number 1, you didn't think it was just magnificent, and you do have a kind of lowered expectations. Now maybe books 2 and 3 will work for you better than some of these other people. So again, I didn't hate the Lies of Lck Lamore. I thought it was a fine book, pretty much good. It was mixed to positive on it. I just said there was a lot of things that I would have done differently, mainly the narrative focus and kind of the shift and change. I just want linear stories. I'm just so tired of the lost flashbacks method of fantasy storytelling, especially when it seems like it's in a Deus Ex Machina way to get our characters out of everything. But again, I've talked about it on the channel. I don't know why it gets filed under that I hate it. It is not true. This is kind of one that it hurts my feelings a little bit every time I hear this one. I'm not going to lie, because it's a complete fallacy, and that is, you only read books by white male authors. Complete bupkis, guys. I mean, just since I've started this channel, I've read Robin Hobb, Fonda Lee, M.L. Wong, Martha Wells, Evan Winter, Anna Stevens, Anne Rice, Leigh Bardugo, R.F. Kuang. Every manga that I've ever read. Look, I do go a lot off of recommendations on this channel, and I'm going to be straight with you. Prior to the early 2000s, the fantasy genre, which is what I mostly focus on here, was dominated by white men. It was just kind of a white men kind of category. Thankfully, that has changed in the years since. But again, I'm reading a lot of classic fantasy that I never picked up before and going off recommendations. So I can see why it may feel that way. Again, guys, honestly, I never pick up a book and say, oh, wait a second, this isn't by a white man, I can't read it. Never. I've never done that once. It's just a bulk of my recommendations, because it is the fantasy channel, and there is mostly fantasy pre-1990s that I get recommended. It's going to seem like that sometimes, but I've read a million female authors just since I started this channel. Robin Hobb and Anne Rice were both in my top 10 authors of all time. I'm not going to kind of break down the statistics here, but I'm just saying that is a complete lie. That one is a complete fallacy. It's not true. And again, I have never, ever gotten a book that wasn't by a white male author. Say, I can't read that because they're not a white man. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Next one is, you're just a fantasy channel, so why do you say all things horror, sci-fi, and fantasy literature? That's something that I am very aware of. This is a half-truth, because I do feel myself really, really leaning 90% fantasy, 10% everything else. I feel like I did do that. And I said I wanted to get into more horror that was not just Stephen King. I wanted to read more sci-fi that was not just Dune related, So it was one of those things where I said, I realize this is a problem. If I'm going to keep using that tagline for the channel, I need to update some things. That's why I'm doing the TBR that I'm doing now, where I do one fantasy, one horror, one sci-fi, one miscellaneous like historical fiction or crime or thriller, and then one manga every month. That's kind of my format going forward because I want to learn some more of those things. I have a lot to learn in sci-fi and horror. So I understand that. That is absolutely true. But that is why I did keep that tagline when the channel got hacked and I kind of rebranded everything. But I kept that tagline because that is something I do want to focus on. I do really stick to those three. I really do. But, I want to make sure that I'm kind of evening the playing field a bit because it did really feel like I was just reading fantasy and Friends. That's kind of what I felt like I was doing. So that's a very fair accusation, and I am addressing it. You just make videos to get clicks. This is the funniest one to me because, guys, I feel like if that was, I would just make this a Brandon Sanderson channel. But also, if I was just making videos to get clicks, guys, I wouldn't have started a channel about books. That really would have never been it. There's so many more topics out there and categories that have mass appeal. I could have started a Star Wars haters channel. That seems to do very, very well on the YouTubes these days. Really, it's just I do what I feel like I want to talk about, and it may make me sound glum every once in a while because I get bummed out when I spend a long time on something and people don't watch it. But if I was just making videos for clicks, guys, it would be rant videos. It would be a lot more negativity. I like to be positive on these things. I already feel like I do too many top 10s, more so than I did when I started the channel. And it's this is just ridiculous. I can't think of one video I've made just to get clicks. I always listen to my audience. If there's a topic that's really hot at a moment, I might talk about it, because people were encouraging me to talk about Dune or something. I did that when the movie came out. That's my favorite book of all time. You don't ever push me to talk about Dune. It's just I feel like a lot of my audience just has been around for a while, and they don't want to hear me talk about the same 3 or 4 books over and over again. So that's why we'll try to change it up once in a while. But yeah, sure, I'll listen to what my viewers are telling me. So if they tell me something like, hey, you should talk about the Dune sequels since a Dune sequel just came out, sure, I'll do something like that. But I'm never just like chasing the clicks. That's not a thing that I'm doing. Again, this would have turned into a manga channel when my Berserk videos first got a lot of views. I would have done that. I would change the channel to a Berserk channel or a manga channel or again a Brandon Sanderson channel if I was just chasing the clicks. That's never been what I've done here. I appreciate when people watch my stuff. Obviously, I think any content creator would. But as far as just, I'm going to let whatever gets the clicks dictate what I make going forward, not so much. Speaking of Lord Ruler, you only pretend to like Brandon Sanderson. Yes, I got this one a lot. I did in 2020. I basically just called it a year with Brandon Sanderson, where I was reading everything within the Cosmere leading up to the next Stormlight book. And I was super positive on almost everything. I think the lowest I gave one of his books was a B-. And people weren't happy with that. So if you have to praise Brandon Sanderson as infallible, then yes, I guess I'm a Brandon Sanderson hater. I mean, I love Stephen King, and I have dragged several of his books and several of his writing techniques on this channel. So, I mean, I think that I can always make criticism in a way where it's not like an attack, and I think they're all there. I mean, I can criticize my own content and find all kinds of problems. I don't think that that's a negative. But to say that I pretend that I like Brandon Sanderson when I've got dozens of his books in hardcover. I paid for signed editions of his books. I paid for leather-bound editions of his books. I call him the Lord Ruler. I say he's the best in the game right now. I don't see how that's hate. Just because I thought Rhythm of War was a letdown. It was a letdown. And I'm never going to shy away from saying things like that. So I think that maybe that's kind of got me. Some people they can't stand to hear anything negative about their favorite author, so they think that means I must hate him. It's nothing like that, guys. I think Brandon Sanderson is extremely talented. Yes, Era 2 of Mistborn really wasn't for me, and I said that it was a me thing, and I just kind of moved away from it. I haven't read Lost Metal yet. I think that Stormlight Archive number 5 is one of my most anticipated books this year, clearly, because I love that series, and Stormlight Archive is something very dear to me. So, yeah, that's a big old lie. That one is not true whatsoever. I stay away from topics like this on the channel because all they do is make people fight, but I feel like it comes up enough that I have to talk about it. You pretend to be apolitical, but you are actually a supporter of blank. I don't know how many times I've got to tell people I do not care about this stuff. I am a finance major, so I pay attention to economic news and things like that. That's just something from business school that I've never gotten out of. There's certain accounts, there's certain newsletters, there's certain websites that I went to a lot in business school, and I still do that. I don't think looking at economic trends is partisan. I don't really think that that's a thing that's a problem. So again, if you think that that means that I lean one way or the other, I do not. I could care less who was sitting in that little Oval Office. It doesn't bother me whatsoever because it's nothing that I can control really. So I try to tell people that I became a apolitical person when I read Dune for the first time. And the whole message of that story is, don't trust leaders, because they're all Messiah figures and you think that they're going to fix all your problems and they're not. And they're never who they pretend to be. So it was just the teachings of Frank Herbert to me were embedded in me at a very young, impressionable age where I've never ever cared about that stuff. Now, yes, I will cat out of the box here. I said some things on Twitter a few years ago that got me in trouble because people thought it meant one thing when truly what it was everyone was making jokes about the here in America. And I thought, hey, I'll join the fun and make some jokes as well. Apparently, they were poorly timed and I got in big trouble for it. And I don't hide from that. And a lot of people have never forgiven me for that. Now, it was 3.5 years ago. But no, I do not support any political group, party, person, figure, anything like that. My wife is a hardcore libertarian. I just kind of listen to what she says sometimes. I'm like, that's cool. Thanks for sharing. So people are going to believe what they want to believe on things like that. I don't lie to you guys about anything here, but this is why I don't talk about it, because people are just going to kind of believe what they want to believe because everything is hyper political right now. You can't go on social media and not notice that, but it's one of those things like I'll go to a gathering of friends and they're all talking about it. And I just kind of see my way out. That's why I talk about books, guys, because the real world, not as fun to talk about. You say you do this for fun, but you mention your channel analytics nonstop. I'm going to say nonstop. There's a half truth to this because, again, I work in finance. You follow trend lines. You look at the data. You dive into the analytics. It's just something I do. And I thought that when I did my monthly wrap-ups, that would be a way of being transparent. Now, look, that is more for content creators because there's a lot of people who watch a channel that want to start their own channel, and I encourage that. And just try to tell them, look, you think that you get to a certain point and you're a made man. You've made it on YouTube. It isn't. It's peaks and valleys with this platform because things are always evolving with how they run things. So it's just one of those things where I thought I would be transparent. I wanted viewers to feel like they were part of the channel. I want to be open and bare my soul to let you know how I feel about some things. I'm human, guys. I do watch these things. I'm goal-oriented. Yes, I like to see the channel continue to grow. I like to see new people come to the channel. I do like that. Again, what content creator does not? But to say I'm like losing sleep over or something like that, no, not really. I mean, again, I wish things could be better. Since that hack, they've been really, really down. You try to stay positive about these things. But again, that was just me trying to be transparent. So I guess you say half truth because I do this for fun. If not, guys, I would have quit a while ago if I was just watching analytics, because every time you take one of those big dips, it would just depress me and I would leave. Again, that's not why I do this. I do this because I love books. I love to read. I love to share what I'm reading and encourage others to do so. I don't think that that's anything to be shy about. You're using patrons to go on extravagant vacations. This was one that actually surprised me while I was on our most recent family trip. We do take one family trip per year. It's something we've always kind of done. While I was in school when this channel started, I went back to school at 38 years old. And I got my business degree and I went back to work. So yeah, when we got two incomes again, it was really nice to say, hey, we'll do something nicer. Just like go to SeaWorld for the weekend. We'll go do something nicer. We're about an hour's drive away from the port of Galveston, which is where all of the cruise liners go out of. So we don't have to pay any travel really, except gas to get to Galveston. You park your car for like $60. They'll keep it for a week. And it's just a really affordable family trip that we take every year on a cruise. A cruise is not super duper expensive. Now look, it's not cheap, but it's not what you're thinking. It doesn't cost what you're thinking, depending on when you go, depending on what kind of room you get, what liner, where you're going, how many people, stuff like that. It is the ultimate bargain shopping deal. You can find a really good deal. But if people really believe that this one person that was really, really giving me a hard time about it, if that person really thought that the $3 a month they gave me for 2 months was funding our family vacations, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. Look, I appreciate, obviously, anything that my patrons do for me. I love to talk to them. I feel like it's a great community that I built with a lot of my patrons, and I love them to pieces. But no, my wife works, I work, and we want to take our kids on a nice vacation once a year. I don't really think it has anything to do with that. So if I felt like if I was using my patrons, I would do a lot more of exclusive content that you can only see if you're a patron. I would advertise on this channel every single video. Hey, join Patreon. I don't do that hardly ever. You know, I have the link down below. Every once in a while, I'll say if you want to join the Discord, there are options there. But I don't sit here and just stump for you to join my Patreon, because it's one of those things where if people want to help the channel out, I appreciate it. Of course I do. Of course I do, because a lot of this equipment that you have to upgrade all the time, it ain't cheap. It really isn't. But to think that I'm using that money just to go on vacations, no. Again, that's why I went back to school, so we could go on family vacations. You haven't collaborated with certain creators due to personal reasons. I have said time and time again, guys, that I will collaborate with anyone. I have no problems. I am ever the professional, and that's why I don't trash other channels on this channel. Even if it's a creator I do not like, I will not say anything negative about them, because I know how much work this is. I know how much it takes to turn that camera around, put your face on it, to kind of bare your soul to your audience. I won't do that. I won't drag other creators. I have no problems, no personal problems with any creators. They may have some with me. Again, I worry about the things that I can control. If anyone wants to come to me and talk to me about collaborating, I'm always open to that. But a lot of the main requests that I get a lot, guys, I've asked those people. I can't make someone collaborate with me if they don't want to. And, they might believe one thing about me. They might just decide they don't like the cut of my jib. That's fine. That's fine. I worry about the things I can control, but I have no problems with anyone, and I will collaborate with anyone. I might not have them on my channel, but if they want me on theirs or something like that, again, it's just a matter of logistics. If they have not said that they cared, if I've asked them and they've said no, why am I going to keep asking them? So it's just one of those things I think that people make a lot of assumptions about, but again, it's not true. I've asked most of the people that you've asked me a lot of times I have on the channel, and I've either got no reply or no thank you. And again, I'm fine with that. But again, no, I have no personal problems with any other creator that I refuse to collaborate with. And the last one, because I get it all of the time, you hate the ending of The Dark Tower. I don't know how many times I've told this story, guys. Yes, I was very upset when Dark Tower 6 came out. And again, I was one of those who waited years for these books. And I went from being super anxious for the ending of The Dark Tower to have my arms crossed and not even wanting to read book 7 when it was about to come out. I actually got it early because I was part of his book club. And it was one of those things where there were many things about Dark Tower 6 and 7 I dislike. I still dislike these things to this day. Dark Tower is still a top 5 fantasy series all time for me. And the actual ending, quite good. I actually like the ending itself quite a lot. Even the part where Stephen King tells you, stop reading. I actually like that ending quite a bit. I think it's actually very beautiful, and it is actually very well written. The way that he does tie things up is very, very good. You could tell it was something that he had in mind for decades, and I thought he stuck that well. Didn't like a lot of the Benson 6 and 7. A lot of the meta aspects really, really turned me off. And the final confrontation with the big bad was very, very much a letdown, as well as his handling of arguably the greatest villain in the entire multiverse. So these are things that did upset me. Again, a lot of people that didn't have to wait years between these books will binge them now and say, I don't have all the problems you do. That's great, man. I don't want you to have any problems. I want people to enjoy things. But to say I hate the ending of The Dark Tower is a straight up falsehood. So there you go, guys. That's the ones that I can think of. These are the ones I hear a lot. And it's just, again, talk to me. If you feel like you have some of these issues, some of these problems, come talk to me. I don't feel like I'm hard to find, guys. On social media, I'm on Discord. I read your comments. I will respond to you. But again, if you have these certain beliefs about me, there's probably nothing I can do to change them. And you're probably not even watching this far in the video. But if you have, and you have any other things that you've heard, or even something as simple as I didn't like this book, or I don't like that author, or I don't like this creator, please drop in the comments or message me if you feel like it's way too personal of an issue to discuss. I'd love to talk about it with you, because I like to be an open book, pun intended, on this channel, and talk to you guys about these things if you have some sort of issue with me. So drop in the comments, guys. I'd love to talk to you about it, and I will talk to you there.